One of my favourite developments of the Trump presidency is the discussion around the US Agency for International Development, or USAID. And in Trump's very first day, he had this executive order re-evaluating and realigning United States foreign aid. And in it, he had a 90-day pause on all of the things that come under this sort of purview, I suppose. And I liked how they framed it in, and I can actually scroll down and show you it, rather than just read it myself, but I'll do that anyway. The United States foreign aid industry and bureaucracy are not aligned with American interests and in many cases antithetical to American values. True. They serve to destabilize world peace by promoting ideas in foreign countries that are directly inverse to harmonious and stable relations internal to and amongst countries, which I like the sound of. And basically is saying that they're going to pause these organisations because, of course, it's not only the USAID, but it also comes into other things as well, and they're going to review them and figure out what they're going to do with them. And what that is this, because of course Elon Musk, being in charge of the Department of Government Efficiency, I don't know why I couldn't say that, or DOGE, said he's actually going to be shutting down the Beyond Repair USAID department, which
Afuera.
Yes, wonderful. Just get rid of whole departments. This is what I want to see. This is how you make America great, is you get rid of all of the federal government because you don't need it.
Yeah, most of it is needless.
As you know, technology and infrastructure has got better and more efficient, the government has grown when actually it should do the opposite. Yeah. Because, of course, communication, there's no reason why when people were using letters and fax, why in the world of email and mobile phones you need more people to do the same job. It doesn't make any sense. Sure, there are more people in America, but I think you can have a leaner state, can't you? And just to illustrate that, let's have a look at some of the facts and figures here. So the budget for 2025 would be 22.58 billion. That's a lot of money. It represents 0.2% of the US federal budget, which is horrifying. But it's worth mentioning, in 2023, although the camera's in the way, it was nearly 51 billion. So that's,
50.1. Close to, yeah. That's a lot. That's quite a lot.
It's a waste of money, basically, is what it is. Because once we see what the money is spent on, you'll be very, very glad, but probably very, very angry that it happened in the first place. So if you're a US taxpayer, I'm sorry, I'm going to make you very angry. However, I'm also going to make you very happy that it stopped.
There's some silver lining.
Yes.
So, quick question before we say more about this. Mm-hmm. It sounds like the executive order that Trump signed is more like a statement of intent. That says for 3 months, foreign aid is going to pause until it's reevaluated. So, yeah, we need also to see what's going to happen after 3 months.
I think what they were looking at was potentially folding the USAID, some of the things that were under its purview, into the State Department and getting rid of this and basically trimming a lot of the fat because, as we will see, there is a lot of fat. And there's also this. This was very interesting. So apparently Elon Musk's team tried to enter the offices of USAID, and I'm going to read from The Guardian here because, of course, they're going to talk about this. The demands of wanting to have to see the files, which they're allowed to see, led to a tense standoff during which a senior deputy to Musk threatened to call the US Marshals in to grant access to the building. The officials said John Voorhees, no, it's not that kind of, not Jason.
Not that person, okay. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't have a hockey mask on.
No, I thought the same, to be fair. USAID's Director of Security and Deputy blocked efforts by DOGE's members to physically access restricted areas. So I don't know what he did. Did he just sort of stand in the way? Like, how eco-protesters chain themselves to trees? Similar thing, maybe? I don't know. But they were put on leave after that show. Which is, if you're directly resisting the will of the president, which they are, because he signed that executive order and Elon Musk is acting on his authority, then you don't deserve to work for the executive branch of government. That's pretty obvious, right? So let's also point out this. So the head is Samantha Power, and she served...
That's a good surname. You have to give it to her.
Yeah, if you're in politics and your surname is Power, I feel like you're destined to succeed. Or maybe you're destined to have people forever suspicious of you, I don't know. But she served as the administrator for USAID between 2021 and 2025, and she'd previously served as an ambassador to the United Nations from 2013 to 2017 under Obama. So in her time as an ambassador to the UN, she pushed loads of woke stuff, and was pretty hawkish when it came to possible armed interventions abroad. So it's like the worst of both worlds, really, isn't it? It's just like, we want to bomb you with rainbow bombs.
And I see something really interesting there. She began her career as a war correspondent covering the Yugoslav wars before entering academic administration. And she was a member of the Democratic Party and actually very vocally in favor of Obama's policies.
Yes.
Which is kind of weird because Yugoslavia was a very failed multi-cultural or multi-ethnic
Maybe,
experiment.
Stelios, this is, a strange thought. Maybe she didn't pay attention to the actual lessons of the Yugoslav wars. But yes, she was also involved in the Russiagate conspiracy or hoax or whatever you want to call it, the failed attempt to say that Trump was a Russian agent. She used her authority to reveal the identities of hundreds of names of those involved in intelligence, and it was a big scandal. And so obviously she's very critical of Trump. And so going after a department in which she's been in charge of for 4 years and has been shaped around her, presumably, is probably a good idea, right? And seeing this from this senator here, a president is not a king. Trump cannot eliminate USAID with the stroke of a pen. Not only is it illegal, it is a gift to our adversaries. It's worth mentioning JFK, not RFK, as in JFK, shot in the head, created the department by executive order, and so it makes perfect sense to my mind that it can also be dismantled in the same way, right? If you can create a department in one way, you can dismantle a department in one way.
It doesn't mean that if a department is created, it should forever be in existence.
Yeah, the powers of the presidency have not changed in the Constitution since that has happened. Well, at least in theory. Yeah. But Elon on Twitter, of course, said it is a criminal organization and it's time for it to die. So it seems like the whole thing is just going to be wiped. And apparently Elon Musk has said that Trump agrees with him, which is good because he's beneath Trump, so shouldn't be framing it that way around. But still, it seems like Trump does agree. And in fact, this is what he had to say.
Disciplining him, yeah.
USAID, or what's going on there?
Well, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
I love how he repeats everything twice. Giving the media their soundbite there. But it's true. I mean, it's not even hyperbolic. It is run by radical left-wing lunatics, and we will see this. I'll show you some of the things they're funding.
We need it also here in Europe, because we have all these crazy NGOs funding our destruction.
Even more so than the US, yeah. So this was interesting. In this same, presumably, press conference here, he mentioned South Africa, and they're cutting aid to South Africa. And this was really important because remember I covered recently the land expropriation bill?
Yes.
Basically said that the government can take white farmers' land without even compensating them. Trump said this about that.
It's only South Africa. Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
That's really, really promising that the US is now using its influence to push back against what I would call the genocide of white people in South Africa.
They're going full communist there. I mean,
Of course
they're
they are, yeah.
dekulakizing
Mhm.
the country because they want to completely disrespect the property rights of the farmers.
Well, they don't even recognise them. And here's a post from Donald Trump about that to sort of expand upon it. South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want to so much as mention. A massive human rights violation at a minimum is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Also, I will be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of this situation has been completed. And I think they are quite serious about this because they have deleted the account, the Twitter account for USAID, and the Financial Times is reporting that the website has gone dark as well. So it does seem like the whole thing is going, which is great. And why does it exist? Why does this government exist in the first place? Governmental department, should I say? Well, Bukele, the president of El Salvador, has a thing or two to say about it, and I think he's bang on the money here. Most governments don't want USAID funds flowing through their countries because they understand where much of that money actually ends up. While marketed as support for development, democracy and human rights, the majority of these funds are funneled into opposition groups, NGOs with political agendas and destabilizing movements, which is very true. At best, maybe 10% of the money reaches real projects. That 10% number has been repeated by Elon Musk. And lots of other people that have said that actually most of the money disappears before it reaches its intended target. Funny that, isn't it, that free handouts have a habit of disappearing. Cough, cough, Ukraine. But it carries on to say, before the money reaches real projects to help people in need, and there are many such cases, but the rest is used to fuel dissent, finance protests, undermine administrations that refuse to align with globalists' agendas. And cutting this so-called aid isn't just beneficial for the United States, it's also a big win for the rest of the world, which I agree with.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, funding corrupt governments in order to just somehow become non-corrupt, is ridiculous.
You pay them to not become corrupt.
This is known for decades. Most of the economic aid given, for instance, to Africa, doesn't actually help people there.
No, of course not.
It actually harms them
No,
by funding the people who oppress them.
So Mike Benz has done a lot of work on this, and he had been on Joe Rogan saying there is no aid in USAID. It's not an aid organization. USAID stands for US Agency of International Development. What it's developing is all these activist organizations in foreign countries that the State Department is building to gain influence, which is true. USAID was created to be a central hub that organizes all different foreign clandestine operations. It has a 50 billion budget. The entire intelligence community is only 72 billion. So this is an important comparison here because I think that there's a pretty good argument to suggest that it's a sort of more public-facing arm of the US intelligence agencies, and you can look at the fact that the funding's almost comparable there. And it carries on to say it's more than the CIA and State Department. It's a switch player to assist the Pentagon, the State Department, and the intelligence community, which, to be fair, it is. And of course, we know these people in charge of these departments are very resistant to Trump and the right more generally. They back the Democrats, and they have done lots of things to interfere in political processes domestically and certainly abroad. So there's another example here that the USAID program set up a fake AIDS prevention workshop to topple a foreign government here. So this says, beginning as early as October of 2009, a project overseen by the US Agency of International Development sent Venezuelan, Costa Rican, Peruvian young people to Cuba in hopes of ginning up rebellion. The travellers worked undercover, often posing as tourists, travelling around the island, scouting for people they could turn into political activists. In one case, the workers formed a HIV prevention workshop that memos called the perfect excuse for the programme's political goals, a gambit that could undermine America's efforts to improve health globally.
Yeah, and that is going to be accompanied by famous people talking in famous platforms. I'm not naming any of them for known reasons, who are going to say, we need to solve this issue. It's social justice. So how are you going to do it? Fund us. Fund this organization over there.
Yeah, I don't see how this is in the interest of the American people, how this money is being spent. And then RFK has talked about how the CIA have used USAID as a front that used $5 billion in 2014 to ignite a colour revolution in Ukraine. And Victoria Nuland, that's not her real surname, picked the new government a month before the old government was overthrown, which, looking at some of the leaks from Biden when he was vice president of Obama and how he's talking as if he's choosing people and saying, listen, we're going to hold this money back unless you get rid of this prosecutor who happens to be involved in prosecuting a company that his son worked for. Funny that, isn't it? Yeah, Burisma. So where is a lot of this money going? So apparently some of it's going to the production of heroin in Afghanistan. I'm sure they're very upset about this because the Taliban have clamped down on it. But apparently they're helping irrigate, fertilise Afghan opium fields. And here we go here. American taxpayer money has funded irrigation canals, farming equipment, and even fertiliser used to support the unprecedented poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan. I don't know why they're saying it mainly benefits the Taliban. Actually, they've shut it down. They don't like heroin, it turns out. But there we go. It's also worth mentioning on the topic of Afghanistan, this person here, you might recognise him, Callum. He used to work here. When Callum went to Afghanistan, he went rummaging around in the rubbish, as you often do, behind a hotel, and found this.
So I found this big trash pile, all trash, things that Afghanis don't need. Loads of chairs, other crap, more chairs, some rugs they don't want. What else don't they want in Afghanistan? Gender sensitivity training.
You can see the USAID logo there. Yeah, Callum's got a channel. You should go check it out. Doing his travel videos. Another thing that the USAID may have helped fund is they funneled $53 million to Eco Health Alliance, who were supporting the gain-of-function research of coronaviruses at the Wuhan lab. So, yes, here we are. USAID, one of the main funders of this organisation, which... depending on how you look at the COVID origins,
situation.
Yeah, I think that the Wuhan lab is the most likely origin point of the virus, and so yes, you have USAID to blame for COVID. There you go. Also, they gave them a further 13.2 million grant after it was found that the National Institute of Health admitted that the Eco Health Alliance had violated the terms of the Wuhan lab grant, and they gave them more money. And this was in 2021. And they're also the third largest donor to the BBC. Here's the BBC talking about it. USAID was our third largest donor, providing nearly 1.9 million. So the US taxpayer is funding our state broadcaster for some reason, which even I don't fund. I don't pay for the BBC. So why are you?
Why would they do this, Josh?
By the way, I want it abolished. That's not me gloating.
Why would they do this, though? You don't...
Well, it's left-wing propaganda, isn't it? That's why they're funding it. And also, they've given millions of dollars to Bill Kristol as well. He was complaining, he's saying the deep state is far preferable to the Trump state. And then someone pointed out the deep state is preferable because you are listed as the president of Defending Democracy, which is an indirect beneficiary of USAID through the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. Yeah. So there you go. Lots of money involved by the looks of it. So yes, obviously a lot of the people coming out and defending it are also the beneficiaries of it. So that's worth mentioning.
That's always the question. Who benefits?
They've also provided 2.1 billion to Gaza, which is confusing because I thought the US government worked on behalf of Israel, but there we go. And then also they've spent an inordinate amount of money countering disinfo. So this is a video, and you can see that you've got the USAID thing there.
The people are taxed in order to fund
their own censorship, yeah.
Their own censorship.
Mm-hmm. And of course, here's another document funded by USAID, and it's asking for social media companies to agree to policies on strategic silence. So on certain topics, you can strategically silence people. Why would the average American taxpayer want to be strategically silenced when, they have the constitutional right to free speech and they're paying to have that right deprived? Seems a bit strange, doesn't it?
It's of strategic importance, Josh. Strategy is all that matters.
Yes. Strategy of left-wingers, unfortunately. So, here is Mike Benz again, who's been very good on this stuff, saying that the military under Joe Biden and Mark Milley openly plotted to incite race riots in Africa and then used USAID to swoop in and give striking protesters no-show jobs on US taxpayers' dime so they could keep getting paid while striking and protesting in the streets. And he was saying that they're paying to destabilize these countries to then get something in return. They say, we can make this go away if you do what we want.
This makes sense because in the previous segment you did about South Africa, if we bear in mind the kind of language that Ramaphosa and his supporters used, it is language that is just tailored to a first-year undergraduate audience in Ivy League universities.
Mm-hmm. It reads as if he's speaking to Americans.
Exactly.
And it's very easy to pick up on that as well, isn't it? Particularly from outside. And so that may explain why that's going on in the first place. And then here's another example. They paid $20 million to hit-piece journalists trying to dig up dirt on Rudy Giuliani, of course Trump's lawyer, and then use that as the basis to impeach the president then, 2019, which was Donald Trump, funnily enough. Strange that. So it's almost like the department was explicitly working to, remove someone from their office that is now in charge of them. Kind of makes sense that Trump's removing them then, doesn't it? And if you don't have enough reason to be bitter against them, AOC, apparently her career in politics was kick-started by their college program, which, they brought AOC into politics, USAID. And another thing as well, this might be important for you, they played a key role in censoring the internet in Brazil. I'm pretty sure you've covered this before, haven't you?
Yes, with Alexander de Moraes.
That's right, yeah. And finally, they've given $15 million to George Soros's Open Society Foundation, which may as well be, the Kick Puppies Foundation or something like that.
Yeah, that was only in Obama's last 4 years, which means that most probably they'll have given more before.
That is true, yeah. And of course, anyone who's familiar with George Soros and his Open Society Foundation knows that it is a force for great evil in the world.
Yeah, and especially the last sentence gets me.
However, the funding was primarily for Soros's operations in Albania and Macedonia, which probably means that he's basically people trafficking. Like, there is proof out there of George Soros funding illegals flying into Mexico to break into the southern border.
But also it's an issue of how this foundation is used in order to destroy identity in the Balkans, for instance, when he's talking about Skopje. No.
Yeah, well, obviously USAID is a massive waste of money and is actually counterproductive to the American people's interests, I think. What it has been used as is a means of getting political leverage for people who don't have the American people's interests at heart. They only have themselves at heart. And the fact that lots of the money has gone to left-wing figures, and also the fact that it's been used to destabilize foreign countries, which has actually brought plenty of refugees to Europe and America, is quite telling, isn't it? And I think it's a very good thing, and it's nice to hear that something is actually being done about it. If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.